Honoring the Journey is made possible by Choircast from Choir Publishing. Choir exists to amplify voices that might otherwise go unheard, voices like mine that invite us to rethink, reimagine, and rediscover faith and spirituality. Many voices, one message, Choir. Explore more at choir.com. That's QUOIR.com. Hello, friends, and welcome back to Honoring the Journey. I'm so glad you're here today to meet my brand new friend. Her name is Rachel Dickson, and she's so cool. I've done, of course, a little bit of research on her, but she did do a TEDx talk just this past May called The Transformational Power of Audacity. She has the audacity to be herself in today's world. How about that, guys? She's a speaker. She's a voice artist. Here's what I love. She really believes that wholeness is our birthright. And I agree with you, Rachel. I think it's really important that we all sort of come home to ourselves. And that's what she likes to do, is help people do that through nature, through listening, and just through educating people. So Rachel, welcome to Honoring the Journey.
Thank you so very much. It is an honor to be here with you and to be able to voice like-mindedness and where we're at in this point in the world where we find ourselves.
And it's a crazy little world we live in right now, isn't it?
Yes, indeed it is. Indeed it is.
Well, Rachel, let's talk a little bit about your journey, if you don't mind. So you did you grow up in the Bible Belt? Is that where you kind of hailed from?
I did not. I grew up in the Midwest near Toledo, Ohio, but I did grow up during the evangelical boom. So my formative years were in the 80s and the 90s when the moral majority was being created. And of course, my parents followed the Christian faith their entire lives, as their parents did, and as their parents' parents did. And it was the mantra, live in the world, but not of it.
Oh yeah, be in the world, but not of it.
And so my entire formative years was Bible, church, Christian school, everything, radio. The Christian radio was always on, and grew up under, which is
that truth pumping in the ears, don't you?
Which is also why I really fell in love with audio, because I fell in love with radio drama. During my growing up years, it was Children's Bible Hour, which was based out of Michigan. And all of those kids programs, the singing, the songs, again, the church, the children's church, vacation Bible school, all the things. So
how was that for you? Did you enjoy it, or was it kind of like, I mean, I know you probably did as a little kid. I think as a little kid, it's all about just being with other kids and having fun. But as you grew up, what was it like for you?
You don't know anything any different. As I mentioned in my TEDx talk, I lead that TEDx talk describing what it was like, and the fact that I noticed something was off about me, specifically when it was out in public. With the way we were allowed to be at home was different than the way we were allowed to be out in public, specifically in what we had to wear. I didn't have to wear skirts at home, but I did have to wear skirts at school and at church. And I started to notice within myself that there was a difference. So I also, being female, within the church, you are, and of course being children as well, you don't speak unless you're spoken to. There's this required silence. And so I was a tuned observer, and I started to notice conflicting things. This was being, preached from the pulpit, and yet this is the activity that I was seeing outside of church. And so, and again, this is what you do as a kid, trying to understand life and what's true, what's real, how you navigate relationships with your peers,
how you show up in the world. I mean, like, that's all stuff you learn as a kid.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I recognized that our family was very different than the rest of the world. Um,
Because
because
you were so Christian?
yeah, because at school, kids would talk about certain types of music, for example. I had
Mm.
no idea what they were talking about. There's whole gaps in my like, don't you do not want me to be on your trivia team when it comes to pop culture because there's whole gaps in my
Yeah.
knowledge of,
I
you know,
completely understand this, Rachel.
yeah, movies, actors,
Mhm.
actresses, again, musicians, prominent bands, and it almost became embarrassing when you were hanging out with your friends and they would say, "What? You don't know this particular, song or this particular artist?" And I'm like, "No idea what you're talking about."
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to be culturally relevant when you're sort of in this subculture that is telling you that culture is evil.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was difficult for me to navigate that in so much that okay, we're being taught that we're supposed to live within these specific rules and structure, and yet the piece that seemed to be missing was how do you apply this?
Mhm.
How do you really truly live the message of Jesus, which was do unto others as you would have done unto you, unconditional love, when everything that I was surrounded by had
Yeah.
conditions and strings attached to it. And I couldn't make sense of that as a kid. And
That's interesting. As a child, you were already sort of realizing this doesn't add up. Like,
that things weren't adding up. Yeah.
hmm, interesting. And so you
Yeah.
were noticing too that you don't love to be in a dress. It doesn't feel comfortable to you. So you had some other things going on. You were realizing something about your
Absolutely.
sexuality that was
Yeah.
being told to you, probably, I'm sure, that
Of
it was
course.
evil. So how did that make you feel?
Right. So this was interesting. And again, this is the main focus of my TEDx talk is
Which, by the
what
way, I'm going to put a link to that in the show notes. So if you want to see it, it's
oh,
really, really good,
fantastic.
guys. Yeah, you need to listen to it. It's really good. But please
Fantastic.
keep going. Sorry.
So the primary theme of my TEDx talk is to explain what it was like to be me within this construct and the the un the unraveling of that. So it was it truly was a collision course. It was as if two different things were floating through this orbit and directed towards one another, and eventually there was going to be a clash and an explosion, and that's exactly what happened when I so as far as sexuality is concerned, I just kind of lived within a state of denial. It was as if I couldn't walk towards it.
It
So
wasn't
I
an
just
option.
so
It wasn't an
exactly.
option for you.
There
Yeah,
was
I
no
know.
choice, and I wasn't going to date guys, absolutely not. So what option did I have? Sports,
Mhm.
outdoors, right? I just shifted my attention, and it was something that I didn't know any better about anyway. So when I get to college, I started to notice that my female friends, that's all they ever talked about was dating and guys. And because again, the end game within during that time within the Christian faith for women was you were supposed to hook up with a guy, get married, have children, live happily ever after. That was the goal.
Yep. Find
And
you a
that
man, take care of
yeah.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was watching this play out in at Christian Bible college with my peers, and I literally was like an observer, like I was watching a movie. So I lived my own kind of life. I'd go out and hike in the woods. I went to Northland Baptist Bible College my freshman and junior or sophomore year, and that it was the campus is way, way up into northern Wisconsin. I loved it. It was forest and streams and all the things. So, but as I talk about in the TEDx talk, there was a huge pivot that I was forced to make, which was over a period of time, things started to kind of point toward, you did what you were told. You didn't cross the line. You didn't ask certain questions. Well, I started to explore my own personal expression. I loved a short haircut. And I had a very short haircut. It wasn't this short, but close. And I was basically sent home. I was basically fired. I was working as a clinician for the volleyball, a traveling summer volleyball camp team, if you will. And basically, I was pulled aside and said, "You are not representing what we need you to represent as far as what a Christian woman looks like." And that was a huge, huge uh, slam
Yeah.
to the direction I was headed. So now what do? I thought that I was going to graduate from this college. And so I had to pivot, and
Did they
that
throw you out of the college?
I was not canned from the school. They
Just
told
from
me
your
that.
job?
They sent me home and said, "You can't continue to be a clinician and represent the college." But I knew right then I
And
was
this
not
is
gonna
all just because of how you looked?
yeah, it was all because of a haircut. Yep. And it's interesting to look into the history of Northland Baptist Bible College and what occurred after that. They were it's almost as if you were a way shower, if you were a bridge builder, if you were vocal, if you questioned, if you pushed back, if you demanded more, you were silenced because you were not following the mold. And that was a pattern, not just at Northland Baptist Bible College. That was a pattern all over.
Oh, yeah.
You can find it under any rock in the evangelical movement that,
Yeah.
it's about following the system.
Yes.
And if you go off script,
Don't
you
fight the system, man. Don't
yeah,
do it.
right.
Yeah.
Don't you dare speak up. So that really sent me on that was the pivotal point where I really started to seek what's real, what's true. I mean, it was a big blow to me personally. It was very shameful, embarrassing. Uh, so I chose not to go back to that college. Why would I? Because I
Did
would be.
you know at this point, like, about your sex? Had you thought more about it, or were you just doing your
Thank
thing?
God, no. Thank
Okay.
God, no. So
You wouldn't have got to deal with that at least.
exactly.
Yeah.
Thank God. Because then you're destined to I would have been kicked out of school.
Yeah, for sure.
And there's thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people who can tell stories about that's what their experience was at
I've
Bible
heard
college.
many of them. Yep.
So I'm extremely grateful that that piece didn't arrive in my life until after I graduated college and I was in my mid-20s.
So
And
but like, let me just, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. I'm just like so blown away that you weren't even like expressing I'm, gay or anything.
no.
It was literally just because you had a short haircut
Yep. Yeah.
that they told you you didn't fit the mold.
I
Oh,
was
this
not
makes me want to go cut my hair.
I was not shave it off. Do it. Do it.
Audacity.
Yeah, audacity, right. It almost is as if it's one of these things, like it was a test in real time. And what played out was you're either gonna conform or these are the consequences. And I simply was expressing something, a look. It wasn't like I was intentionally trying to be more boyish. That's not at all what I was trying to do. I was simply trying to be comfortable. Long hair wasn't my thing. And traditionally, again, within the female gender, most women had long hair.
Mhm.
And that wasn't my thing. But anyway, I also was shocked to find out later, and I didn't find this out until many, many years later, that the school administrator called my parents after I had been told that I had to leave and basically gave them the what for not raising me up to be a better female Christian. And so when I learned that from my parents, you can understand why
What did they say?
not gonna go back. I don't know exactly what the details of the conversation was, but I know that both of my mother and my father both were taken back by the accusation. Um, Parents who had followed the Christian faith and had thought that they raised their kids within these certain biblical standards and teachings, right? And so you can imagine how bad I felt,
We did
like
it all right. Yeah, why is this happening? Yeah.
somehow I had committed, and I was never accused of this, as these words were never used, but it felt like I had just committed some major sin.
Mhm.
The whole
Just by being yourself.
dogma around the terminology of being a sinner, and not conforming fell within that category. So
So
that
you're
was
saying your parents brought you up exactly the way they were supposed to,
mhm,
but then
yeah,
something still wasn't happening. And so did they I wonder, did they feel like they did something wrong? Did you know what I mean? Like because I know everybody wants to figure out who's to blame. Everybody wants to figure
right,
out why is
right,
this happening?
right.
But there's nobody to blame. I see this now. Back then I probably would have been like, wow, I wonder what happened. Something, there must have been this or there must have been that, and
Mhm,
I would have tried to make sense of it because if
mhm,
you do these things, check the boxes, it should
mhm,
turn out like this,
right.
which tells me this is more about identity than
Yeah,
anything.
and what's ironic about all of this, what really, really just, to me, it just kind of threw me down on the ground. I was a huge follower. I was devotions every day. I was reading the Bible. I had a whole spiritual practice where I was getting to know Christ. I was getting to know Jesus. I was learning this. What does this mean to live within this faith and to live within these teachings, which is, full of love and so on. So I was doing all the things, and yet I wanted short hair. I was athletic, I was always in the gym. Um, but and I had no boyfriend. I certainly had no girlfriend. Which is another ironic thing when I was starting to be accused of being gay. I was being simply asked the question, "Are you gay?" from my church going peers, and again, here came the same energy, which was, "What am I doing? What am I doing wrong to be accused of this? I haven't held a girl's hand. I haven't kissed a girl. I have never dated a girl. Like, what is happening?" Um, so what kept coming at me within the Christian faith was, "You're not doing it right. You're
Mm,
not doing it right." And it became all about appearance. And I knew in my heart, appearance had nothing to do with it.
yeah.
And this is where I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to figure this out for myself. What does this mean for me? I didn't walk down the, oh, by the way, I am gay path until, my mid 20s, which
It's
was a,
interesting to me that
which
these
was a whole other
people
journey.
sensed it. They sensed that you were gay before you even did. That to
Yes.
me is hilarious.
Yes.
I'm like,
Yeah, absolutely. Here's
and
your
it was
sign,
like they were
Rach.
already
Yeah.
judging you for something that you didn't even realize.
Right. Right.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
This is so horrible. I'm
What's
so sorry.
interesting, what is it? Oh, thank you. What is interesting about this to me is to walk down the path of asking yourself the question, what does it really mean to be gay? What does it really mean to be straight? And what is it? Is it an act? Um, I'm just going to pose that question to your listeners. I'm not going to provide the answer because the answer is very broad and very layered. Um, but that was something that hit me between the eyes. I hadn't done any of these things that you're ultimately energetically accusing me of. And yet what I have done is followed the faith to the T. So what gives? Um, and that's where I landed with, you know what? There's some fake counterfeit fool's gold in this
Yeah.
system. And it's time for me to pick it apart piece by piece and answer these questions that I have for myself. And from that point forward, that needs to be the only thing that matters for me. I need to quit looking outside of myself to get that sense of belonging, to feel that sense of community, which was a very big challenge for me. I mean, I ultimately walked away from the church. I walked away from the faith because you can't do both. You can't be real
Yeah.
and also follow this dogmatic system.
Well, and I think you basically just summed up what I think every person who decides to go on this very lonely, very scary, very difficult road of
Right.
deconstruction,
Mhm.
you literally come to a place where you're like, this no longer makes sense in my heart. If the things that Jesus, like, and I always go back to him because he said, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, strength, and mind. Love your neighbor as yourself. That's the most important thing. And then he said, do unto others as you would have them do unto you.
Mhm.
All right. So those are the main things he taught. He
Mhm.
didn't say anything about sexuality. He didn't say anything about
Mhm.
the things that seem to be deal breakers for this system.
Mhm.
And one of the things that people like to say, and you've probably heard this a lot, like you're just trying to make your faith fit into what feels good for you. I hear this all the time. You're just picking and choosing, and you're just and I'm like, no, I'm just trying to follow Jesus. And literally, I still love Jesus. I still love God. Right? Some people who
Mhm.
deconstruct give up on all of that altogether, and
Mhm.
I fully understand why.
One thing that I did notice within the church is food consumption was never discussed. And yet, how many church buffets have their, you know what I'm talking about, where
Oh
people
yeah,
would just
yeah.
gorge themselves at these picnics and so forth. And yet that was never talked about. That, it's, and again, to me, it's where's the self-discipline? Where's the self-love? Um, so
Yeah.
even within those contexts, what was being thrown at me was you had to be extremely disciplined with yourself. What you listened to, what you watched, how you presented yourself, modesty, especially women, where guys, males, men were pretty much allowed to do whatever,
Oh yeah.
whenever, wherever. And females were held to a different standard. And that was another thing that I, learned over the years that really, really bothered me
Yeah.
in regards to just because you're born in a female body,
Mhm.
you're held to a completely different set of standards. And if your female body is violated in any way, it's your fault.
Mhm. Or if a
I'm
man is
certain.
tempted because he's looking at you, you
Yeah,
were
yeah,
a temptress. It was all
right.
your fault. Yeah.
It was all your fault. And where's the humanness in that? Whereas, my messaging now is we're all humans first.
Mhm.
The rest of it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
In self-respect and respect of everyone else around us first and foremost, regardless of education level, where you're from, what your zip code is, what school you went to, what your gender is, what your skin color is, all of those things out the window.
Yeah.
How and again, to me, this is all. And I asked this question: how in the world did Jesus do it? How did he do it? Um, walking down the street and hearing just mindless banter about, where the vase of oil
Yeah.
is in the kitchen or something. these mindless things. And
Judging people for washing his feet with perfume, or you
yeah,
know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I
yeah,
was like, "Oh, they're wasting that." And he's like, "Let her do what she's doing." Like, what's
right.
wrong with you? It
It's
was
it's
just
nitpicking.
legalism. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
the
remember being taught
nitpicking.
when I worked in Christian radio, they taught me that perception is reality.
Mm,
So be careful how you're perceived. And I remember being like, "Ooh, that's heavy." Like, so it doesn't even matter what I do. If people think I've done it, then it's
mhm,
real. So like then
yeah.
I literally would feel like everything was my fault. I was like, this
Mm,
must be my fault. Even if it wasn't my fault, I was like, surely this is my fault. And I would
mm.
take the blame, even if I didn't do it, just to keep the peace.
And see how the attention shifts.
Mhm.
And that's another thing, when you're around this environment all the time, you become very, very good at reading the energy in a room and identifying what's real and what's not,
Mhm.
and seeing behind the veil or behind the curtain,
Yeah.
and sensing those things in a different way. Um, so yeah,
Man.
I I got really good at being able to identify men who were inappropriate. Um, yeah, and I would imagine that's a common theme,
Yeah.
especially among women who grew up in a church background.
Oh yeah.
It's you it almost became a sixth sense.
We called it discernment.
Yes, yes, yes.
We did. We spiritualized everything, of course,
Yeah,
but like it
right.
was all discernment. Oh, that's my discernment. No,
Mm,
that is your indoctrination. That is your
mm.
conditioning. That is
It's
somebody
safety.
telling you for a very long time. Yeah, it's safety. It makes
Mhm,
everybody happy around you, which
mhm.
is your job as a woman. You've got to
Yeah.
make everybody happy and comfortable around
Mhm,
you. So the
mhm.
second you don't, it's your fault, not
It's your
theirs.
fault. Yeah,
So change what's wrong with you so that you
right.
can make everybody happy again. I'm
Mhm.
sure that that was hard for you, Rachel. Are you, I mean,
Yeah.
like, when you ended up leaving that school, what was the next thing that you went on to?
So this was kinda interesting. I took a year off to try to just get my bearings and figure out before I went to college, I wanted to join the Army,
Yeah.
and, or any service for that matter. My parents wouldn't have it. Both of my parents were college educated, and their goal was for both, myself and my sister to go to college, and so I knew that. But I wanted to go into the service, and, I believe because I was female, they were concerned for my safety.
Yeah.
Because of all the stories that were coming out. Tailhook scandal had happened around that time. Um, and so I like, okay. And so my parents said, you'll go to at least 1 year of college before we'll consider letting you. Because if at 18, you had to have your parents' signature in order to go into the service. So I discovered during this year off, I discovered the Army ROTC program and Tennessee Temple University, that at that time was in Chattanooga, Tennessee, a Christian college. I had a cross enrollment program, Army ROTC cross enrollment program through the University of Tennessee, Chattanooga. And when I found that out, I was like, this is what I'm going to do.
I know what I'm doing.
Because there was scholarships available and all kinds of different things. So that's where my attention went, and I transferred to Tennessee Temple, and I graduated from Tennessee Temple through the Army to ROCC program as well. But when I graduated, um, that the job market had exploded. There were no jobs. So the goal was you were supposed to get a college degree so that you could get a good job.
Right.
And so all of us college graduates were wandering around going, what are we going to do now? I wanted to go into the outdoor industry. And one thing led to another. I ended up moving to the Smoky Mountains. I lived in Gatlinburg and worked for a Christian retreat. Of course I did.
Yes.
And that's where, matter of fact, that's exactly where I was called out. Are you gay? The moment that I mentioned in my TEDx talk happened at this Christian retreat in Gatlinburg, and that was the next phase for me of doubling down, questioning what's real for me,
Was it the first time you thought you might be?
Um, I did ask the question. My question was, what am I doing? What is it that I'm doing that I'm being suspected of being gay? And I knew the answer was of what I looked like. I had a very boyish look. I dressed very male. And ironically enough, I was still attending church at that time. And I put the brakes. I put the brakes on all that. And I'm like, you know what? It's time to stop and really double down. And yeah, so that was kind of the next phase was
Can I ask a question before we move on? Because I
sure.
have a question.
Yeah.
Who asked you this question and how did you answer it and how was it received?
So who asked the question were the housekeepers. So I was staying in an apartment that was attached to the laundry facility at this retreat. And I was going into my apartment one day and these two women were standing outside. And I don't remember exactly what the conversation was, but what I do remember is I was just passing by and they were looking at my appearance and just said point blank, "Are you gay?" Just point blank. And yeah, it's hit me really hard. It was not the first time I'd been asked this question. It was about the third time. But it was that was the pivot point for me because I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, if you've been asked this 3 times, you're gonna keep getting asked this. So why are you being asked this question? Um, and so my experience of kind of uncovering my gender identity was backwards,
Mhm.
where I came through the Christian faith completely oblivious to all of that. It wasn't even on my radar. It wasn't anything that I ever acted upon. You know, having a, a girlfriend was not a thing for me.
Was
Or
there attraction or were you just kind of like asexual? Like, I'm not going to even, didn't let
well,
yourself.
here's how that worked. I mean, I know now, look at the time, I would look across the auditorium at church and be like, "Oh my god, she's beautiful."
Oh,
And have what I would call a crush. But what do you do with that?
nothing. Yeah.
There was nothing I could do with that. So I just much like you would much like what I saw other girls admiring, say, princesses on cartoons,
Hmm.
that's kind of how I defined it. Like, okay,
That
you're
makes
just
sense.
admiring a hero figure or something. I didn't know what those feelings were. I didn't know.
You'd
Um,
never been taught either because, I mean, you were just taught
yeah,
it was wrong, period. Like,
right.
don't talk
And
about it.
then here's the other thing is because the term that was used in the church was homosexual,
Hmm.
right? And you have to break it down in those consonants as well.
Homosexual.
Homosexual. They never
Mm.
said lesbian. They never said gay. The word queer was a very derogatory term.
Yeah, I remember that.
One of the games that we played was Smear the Queer,
Yep.
which was a tag tackle game. Um, and I didn't realize what that word queer even meant for years after that. Um, so yeah, there was no chance that if it was a death sentence if I were to walk towards anything that had to do with my sexuality, it would have been a death sentence. You know, um,
So, what
and
did
I
you
say
say to
that
them when they asked you? Did you say anything or did you just
I got angry. I got
Mm.
angry and kind of stormed off because I'm like, why are you asking me this? Like, why?
Mm.
Um, so yeah, my response was anger. And then within just a few weeks, I quit and
Mm.
found a job. And actually, it was another wonderful pivot in my life where I got a job with a whitewater rafting company and fell in love with whitewater rafting. So,
Yeah, that's awesome.
but yeah, it and it's important for me to say this here. There's a lot of mm, deconstruction bashing
Mhm.
And this is something that I've always been and want to be very careful. Every Christian college that I went to had a purpose. I learned a lot.
Mhm.
I don't ever want to come across as a mudslinger, as a slammer of the
Right.
faith. That's not my experience. I know full well um, many people that following the Christian faith it changed their lives, and it has changed
Mhm.
many people's lives, and it's been very beneficial and very positive.
And they
Um,
feel safe and they feel
yeah,
like it brings them joy and peace. And I say stay
yeah,
if that's what it's doing for you. And that has
yeah,
always been my message too. But anytime you speak out against like something that you were taught that didn't line up with who you are, they assume you're slamming all of them. I
right,
mean, for
right.
me anyway, I
I
it's
don't feel that way.
frustrating.
It took me a long time to get here to
Yeah,
this
yeah,
space. You know,
of course.
you go through all the emotions of it, you
Yeah.
know, and throwing stuff and angry and just throw baby out with the
Well,
bathwater.
but if the
But
whole point of leaving and deconstructing is to love like Jesus,
Mhm.
that includes the people in your past,
Right. Yes.
and
Yes.
understanding
Yes.
instead of taking it personal when they get angry with you for deconstructing, just remember they feel unsafe when you're tugging at their reality.
Right. Right. And
And
so I have landed in a space of every one of these pivotal points in my life. You know, I can honor them because
yeah,
they pointed me in the next towards the next chapter in my life.
yeah, yeah.
So
That's beautiful.
were I ever to meet those ladies at that retreat again, you know, honestly could walk up to them and say thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
You gave me the key to my freedom.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So after that, you started really like, okay, why are they asking me this question? Could this be true?
Mhm.
When you realized, do you remember the moment when you were like, I'm definitely gay. Something's going on here. And I need to figure out how to show up in the world now, you know?
Yes. So, many months went by and I was still within this space of quandary where I was praying every day. I was asking God all the questions. What is true? What is true? And I dug deep into scripture because
Mhm.
that's what I knew. That's what I had been taught. That's where all the answers are.
Yeah.
So that's where I went first. What does the Bible say about this? You know, I read every verse that could possibly have to do with being gay. And finally, I remembered I was just bawling and sobbing. I was big into worship music and I wrote much of my own worship music. And I was actually literally on top of a mountain. I was working at LeConte Lodge in the middle of Smoky Mountain National Park. And I was singing and just bawling. And I just cried out to God and I said, "Listen, you're going to have to give me an example. I need you to show me an example of what unconditional love is." And it wasn't 1 week later, I met my first girlfriend. And that began my journey of embracing being gay and untangling what I had been taught
Yeah.
and digging into my own beliefs. And quite honestly, what I say now is, and I this is something else that I mentioned in my TEDx talk, is when I felt that genuineness, that was my answer. Because when I felt love in that level,
Mhm.
I said to myself, "How dare you challenge what I feel? Uh, this is unquestionable to me because all of the feelings wrapped up around following rules and keeping up appearance, it has a feeling attached to it that but is this really true for me? I'm playing this game so that I don't get criticized, so that I don't get falsely accused of something. I'm presenting myself the way that I talk, the way that I dress, um, the activities that I'm involved in, the activities that I'm not involved in. It was to me, that was all fake and fleeting and had this feeling to it that it was dishonest.
Mhm.
And yet this experience that I had felt the most genuine, the most honest to me that I had ever felt. And, again, it took me years to get to the place of how dare anybody question what I know in my own deep inner compass space to be true for me.
And it's so easy, I think, for people to like single out that particular, thing because maybe they're not gay. And they're like, well, if you're gay, then you must be doing something to, you must
Mhm,
be sinning or you must be, submitting to Satan or whatever they say. Like they
mhm,
say that because it's not their reality. But what if somebody said to them, loving a woman, if you're a man
mhm,
is wrong,
mhm.
and they couldn't deny that they loved their woman. You know what I mean? So
Right, right.
to me, I see it now and it makes so much sense. But
Mhm,
I will tell you, I mean, 10 years ago, Rachel, I would have
mhm,
thought the same thing,
mhm.
but there is hope for people. And I think that that's what I want people to understand is, I mean, you were fully in. You were not just like going to church on Sundays just to check a box. You were in it.
I was
You
in
were
it.
really seeking
Yeah.
the Lord. So,
Mhm.
like, I don't know. I mean, I know it's easy to devalue somebody's experience and say, well, it's just your experience. It's not the truth.
Yeah.
But
Right.
I do think there is something about experience. Why would God give us experiences to walk out the realities of
Mhm,
our faith if they weren't important,
mhm,
you know?
mhm.
And
Yeah. Well,
if it is all about love, if God is love and you finally felt what genuine
mhm,
love felt like,
mhm,
of course you're going to go in that direction. Why
mhm,
wouldn't you?
mhm.
You know?
Yeah. Do you know one of the core cornerstones of my belief shift was when, I sat with the concept that we were all made in the image of God.
Mhm.
So, I had to ask the question, if I'm made in the image of God, then didn't God make me this way?
Mhm.
I don't see how anybody can counter that question.
Yeah.
Naturally, the traditional response to that is, "Well, this is a choice that you're making."
It's a choice
No,
and you live in a fallen world and when Eve
no, it
ate
is
the
not.
apple, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that is what they would say though. They would say, well, of course you think God made you that way. He made you pure. But,
Mhm.
you think that because see, I know all the answers to all the things that you know what I mean? I'm like,
Right.
oh,
Yes, I do. I
dang.
know
And
exactly
so
what
I
you mean.
understand where they're coming from, but they're not it's almost like they're so close to this theology and this system that's telling them
Mhm,
this that
mhm.
if they don't even want to back away enough to see it from a bigger perspective of
Right.
love.
Well,
It's
here's
more lines drawn.
right. Another interesting thing to consider is this. Um, within the Christian faith, the belief is that you are eternal. When you die, your soul continues. But there's no discussion about the before.
Yeah.
Where does the soul originate from? So, from within that concept, if being born as a human being here on earth, right? This is just an avatar.
Right.
This is a body, right? Within the Christian faith, there's the female body, the male body, and then they are assigned roles to play, and there is no going off that script. Because I believe that within that concept, the body and the soul somehow within that belief system are the same. Well,
Mhm.
we know that that's not true within the teachings because all of us are going to die at some point. And I do believe that our souls are forever, which means that they were forever before and they're also forever after. Um, so, what if the whole point is for us to come here and experience? And your experience is your experience. My experience is my experience. The next person's experience is their experience. And who gets the right to say that your experience is wrong
Mhm.
and my experience is wrong? Um, so you can double down on asking questions that go way outside of the traditional systems of thinking and rules and, you know,
And what if that's
ways
the
ways of
point?
living. What's that?
What if the point, I mean, I feel like I could have lived the rest of my life in that belief system. I had a choice, right? I could have
Mhm,
stayed in that system, but I felt like I was missing out on love. And I
mhm.
do believe the reason we are here is to
Yeah,
learn about love. I
yeah.
do. I think it's all about love. And so in order to evolve a little bit, had to step away from that system, not away from the God that I love,
Mhm.
not away from the Jesus that I love, but away from the
Right.
system that I loved for
Yes.
so long. And
Yes.
I realized was doing me harm by making me believe things about God and Jesus and other people that kept me from loving. And
Mhm.
so to me, I feel like now that I'm stepped out of it, it's funny. I felt so free when I was a Christian because I was like, I'm free of sin, but then I would
Mhm.
still sin. But
Mhm.
but I was like, I'm free because Jesus saved me, right? And so I
Mhm.
felt free and it was great. I thought that was it. But now
You've
I
arrived, right? You
I
arrived.
and I'm
Yeah,
not saying I've arrived now, but I
yeah.
am saying I'm going in a better direction now because the freedom that I experience now reminds me of the
Mhm.
freedom that Jesus came to set us free from.
Mhm.
Like he said, it's for freedom that I've come to set you
Right.
free. So, all right, why am I not feeling free to
Yeah.
love and free to accept and free to trust that God has everybody on their own path? They're gonna
Yes.
be fine. Not everybody's soul is my responsibility.
Right.
I'm not gonna lose anything if they don't believe just like me. Like that, my friend,
Mhm.
is the freedom that I have found.
Mhm.
And the freedom you found is the same, and I think also
Yes.
more. Yeah.
It is. I am so glad that you said this because it's something that I will say now is my freedom is based on the fact that I realized that Christianity was putting me in a box,
Mhm.
and I couldn't have the spiritual experience that I was so desperately seeking, the depth and the connection.
Yeah.
The cosmos is involved in spirituality, but yet Christianity put everything in this little box, and it was limiting. It was limiting me.
Right.
So yes, freedom to explore, freedom to ask deeper questions, freedoms to, yeah.
Just include and love and not
Mhm.
putting, and including the people from my previous faith. Like I'm not ever going to push somebody away because they still believe that way.
Right,
The problem
right,
is I'm not necessarily fitting in their box. And,
yeah.
I don't have a box anymore.
Mhm.
And so
It
I'm
doesn't
like,
feel amazing?
it's amazing.
Yeah,
And
it's
I
amazing.
get, I was telling somebody the other day, I get why the rainbow is the symbol,
Mm,
the community, the gay community, because I feel like I went from seeing black and white to seeing colors and being
wow,
able to connect with other human beings on such a
yeah,
deep level because
mhm,
I'm not there to save them. I'm not
right,
there to steer them in the right direction because I know it all. I'm not
right,
that special. And I think that that's the hard part, Rachel. We all just want to be special. We
yeah,
want to think we have hidden knowledge that nobody else
right.
has.
We wanna
And
be seen as well.
yes, of
That's the other
course.
thing is, hide your light under a bushel? No.
You
It's
don't have a
something
choice.
I will always say is shine your light,
Yeah.
and in you shining your light, you being true to you, you being audacious challenges me, to do the same,
Mm,
to step into what my heart is calling me to do. It regardless of how crazy it sounds,
yeah.
it's whatever my compass is pointing me to, and if social norms are what's creating or triggering fear where I don't walk towards that, like I may be holding back the next greatest thing.
Mhm.
Um, so yes, ask the questions, share the experiences, try new things, write
Yeah.
books, publish
Yeah.
podcasts, write music, write the Broadway play, do the creative things.
Well, and do it knowing that there are some people that feel safer in that box, and that's
Mm,
okay. If they need to be in that
yeah,
box to feel
yes.
safe,
Yep.
then let them be. You
Mhm,
know, I get accused a lot of pulling people away from religion. You're,
mm,
spewing your toxicity and you're trying to get
yeah,
people to leave church. No, I'm not. I'm
no,
trying to help the people that feel like how you felt and how I felt.
yeah,
And I know they need help because I was one of them. And you
mhm,
know, because you were one of
yeah,
them. And that's why
yeah,
you do what you do, is
right,
because we want people to know
yes,
if you let that happen, it can happen over and over and over again
over and
in
over
the
and over.
world as you shed these
Level up,
dogmatic.
level up, level up, level up. Yep, yeah,
And it's, to me, that I love to see it. I love to see
mm,
people in their aha stage of,
mhm,
they're like,
mhm,
okay, it's not that that was bad.
right,
That nourished me to get to this point. That
absolutely,
gave me everything I needed
yes,
to be able to get to where I am now.
yep,
But it's
absolutely.
just, it doesn't fit anymore.
I can say the rigidity and the strictness that I was raised within taught me how to create a practice.
Mhm.
So there even from within the negatives, if you will, there are positives that absolutely that I can see. So everything builds upon the thing before it.
Yeah.
You know, the and I'm not one of those kind of people that likes to just do the same thing forever and ever and ever and ever. Amen. And that's it. I'm always one of insatiable curiosity, where I'm asking, well, what about this and what about that and what
Yeah.
this, that, and the other. Just, just the other day, I asked the question, and where it came from, I don't even know. Is what direction does the Earth rotate, and what direction does the galaxy rotate within that rotation?
Good Lord.
Because I was trying to incorporate um elements in the law of oneness, in that
Mm.
everything is source energy, everything is love. And I'm like, there
Yeah.
has to be a reason why everything rotates in the same direction.
Yeah.
Maybe one of your listeners can comment somewhere along the line and be like, oh, this
Yeah.
is it, Rachel. Here's the answers over
Here's
here.
the answer.
Yeah, right.
That's fun. But like I have noticed, Rachel, it just from the people. I mean, I've had over 80 interviews at this point on this podcast
Mhm,
and just talking to people who've been through deconstruction or are going through it or who help others through it. I
mhm.
would say, the majority of them are creatives. That it's they're either
Fascinating.
super intellectual,
Mhm,
like really
mhm.
good into theology, or
Right.
incredibly creative.
Mm,
And I think it's very hard to keep a creative in a womb. We're not
absolutely
going to
true.
stay for long. We're
It's
going to have a great time when we're there, but when it's
yes.
time to go, we're
You might
we're
rearrange
just
the furniture,
we
but yeah,
might several
yeah,
times, yes.
yeah.
But I have noticed that. So I think that really tracks with kind of the
Mhm.
patterns that I'm noticing is, a lot of people who are creative and who have that free spirit and who,
Mm,
the box works for a while, but
right.
it doesn't fit forever.
Right. It makes perfect sense that
Mhm.
creatives aren't going to be able to stand being in solitary confinement for very long.
We don't sit still well. And
Mm-mm.
many of us have ADHD, which is
Yeah,
hilarious.
right.
We're
Right.
like, oh,
Right.
okay, that was fun.
Yeah,
Moving
yeah,
on,
yeah. Yeah. Yep. Exactly. So
But well, Rachel,
it's
I
a
have
magical
so
journey.
loved this. It
It,
is. It's so magical. It's
yeah.
hard. It's hard. And it can be lonely, which is, I think,
Yes.
why Rachel does what she does. It's why I do
Right.
what I do. We
Yeah.
want people to know it's okay. You're going to be fine. I
Right.
promise. Even better than fine, which is, it's weird. You think you're never going to be happy again because that's what you've been told.
Well, there's a period of time when you feel like you're in an abyss and it's just you.
Mhm.
But something that I will say here is on the other side of that, something that I've started to reach towards this year is, I used to be perfectly fine being a loner. It's what I
Mhm.
knew. It's what I was familiar with. But a shift that is happening within me is to seek out people who are like-minded in regards to my spiritual path and working with meditation, for example, and connect with other people and create community. And it's been absolutely mind-blowing to see what has happened. And this next Sunday, I'm stepping out of my comfort zone towards something that I kind of feel compelled to do, and that is to host a gathering where we're going to have someone play the crystal bowls to work with our energies and our alignments first. And then we're going to have a practitioner present what are referred to as color mirror bottles, which is a system that is full of information in regards to what's happening in our lives right now, what questions or answers can be provided. And then I'm going to be guiding a meditation. And the whole so the anniversary of Hurricane Helene is coming up on us here in Western North Carolina, and it's very traumatic from all the destruction that occurred. So kind of scheduled this ahead of that anniversary as a way to set a practice to get us in balance before that emotion kind of comes at us. But
I
these
love that.
these are things that we can all be doing in our communities is follow what you feel called to follow, and seek out others who are interested in the same things, and work to create communities within communities. And that's the next level up.
Oh yeah, you're leveling up again.
Mhm.
You're gonna be like, look what I've been missing. But I
Yeah,
do, you know what? As you were talking, Rachel, I was thinking, I wonder if she was not really a loner. Like it's probably not where you find your joy, but it's where you found your safety because so many people were
yeah,
judging you.
it's
And
exactly
now
correct.
you're feeling less judged, so you're
Yes,
letting people in. And I
yes.
love that for you. That's
That's a
beautiful.
fascinating observation on your part. I used to I still do love to walk in the woods alone, but what is and anything to do with the outdoors, and of course living here in the Blue Ridge Mountains, there's
Beautiful. Yeah.
hundreds of places to go and waterfalls to see. And I find myself now hiking with others more than I hike alone. So everything's kind of starting to align in that regard. Um,
And we're built for community. So like if we're feeling like we have to be alone in order to be safe, who are
yeah,
we surrounding ourselves with? You know what I
right,
mean?
right. Well, in the
So
growing up years, I didn't have a choice.
right. Yeah,
You're
exactly.
just living within your family cocoon, if you will, just trying to survive.
Just trying to make it.
Just
Trying to get
trying to
to the
trying
next
to get
level.
to the next level. Right, right. But,
Oh my
yeah,
goodness.
it's
What a great story. What a great
truly
journey.
truly is a beautiful journey.
Mhm.
If anybody wants to look at or watch the TED Talk, it's available on my website at racheldixon.com. And of
Perfect.
course, you can go to YouTube and just do a search for Rachel Dixon TEDx Brevard.
Yeah.
That'll show
It's
up
a
there.
beautiful, beautiful presentation. And so you have such a professionalism about you. It was very impressive. I loved
Thank
it. Yeah.
thank
Good
you.
for you. And you know what, Rachel, I honor your journey. Thank you for sharing it with
Mm,
such candor and just with such authenticity, like and audacity. I love
mm.
it. So that's like
Well,
my favorite word right now.
audacity. Yeah.
Yeah.
How dare you be you?
Dare you?
How dare
The,
you be you? In
the
fact,
audacity.
I have a T-shirt that you can purchase on my website that says that. How
Oh,
dare to be you.
oh,
Yeah.
I love
Um,
it.
but thank you for stepping out and creating this podcast. For it truly is a mirror back to those of us who are walking the path. It never you never get to the end of the path. It's a forever journey, and it's encouraging to sit within this space and know that there are others who walked the path already, or maybe just a few steps ahead. There may be people that are a few steps behind, um, but all of it is helpful.
Well,
All of
and
it
to
is helpful on the
see,
journey. Yeah,
yeah, just you just want to see that people can be happy
yeah, yeah.
without the system that you were told is what made you who you are, and yeah, I was like, I don't know if I'm ever going to feel happy again when it
Mm.
first started. I was scared.
Yeah. What do you do? Yeah. Everything that you knew
My
went
whole
out the window.
reality,
Went
my
out the window.
identity.
Your community,
Yeah,
everything.
gone.
And it was like starting over, but turns out that end was just the beginning.
Just the beginning. It was
Yeah.
the birth. We've been
Yeah.
born, guys. We're
Yes.
born again.
There you go. Yes.
All
Yes,
right.
indeed.
Well, thank you, Rachel. You've been a delight, and I can't wait to
Thank
see
you.
what more you do with your voice and with your
Oh,
heart.
thank you
'cause
so
it's-
much.
They're both beautiful. So
Thanks.
thank you.
Thanks. Yeah. I thank you again for your openness, your honesty, and your willingness to share space.
All right, friends, I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Rachel Dickson. She is amazing. Like, just hearing her story and just being able to talk about deconstruction with somebody else who gets it is always just such a joy for me. So I just also wanted to let you know that I just started a Substack. This is all brand new for me. I don't know what the heck I'm doing, but it is a great place to share my writing and my thoughts, some, journaling, if you will, and also updates about the podcast and things like that. There will never be a charge for it, I've decided, because I know how important the content is, and I don't want to seem like I'm trying to just make money off of it. But I do appreciate, if you want to support, there are options to do it. So if you have the resources and you're getting something out of Honoring the Journey and you would like to support me, it would mean an awful lot to me. So thank you for doing that. The link to find my Substack is right here in the show notes. And also, if you want to leave me a voicemail, I would love to hear from you. You might even hear your voice on the show one day. I'm actually asking the question right now, like, why did you start deconstructing, and how has this process been for you? There is a link here in the show notes where you can share the voicemail. Just click it. It'll take you right there, up to 90 seconds. And you might hear your voice on a future podcast as well, because I am going to do one about deconstruction, hoping to help people understand what it is and what it isn't. So thanks for joining me, guys. We will see you next week right here on Honoring the Journey.